Hello there, YouTubes. How are we all? I'm very well. Thank you for asking. And welcome to episode 13 of Trump Dump. Now, apologies again, like last week, but this time for good reason. That this episode isn't in the normal format with, audio and then pictures to go along with it, which is much more visually interesting than me just talking into a fucking camera. But as some of you will have known, will have found out, will have heard this week, there has been a general election called here in the Great Britain of United Nations Kingdom land, and so much of my sort of research time and video making time and stuff will go into stuff to do with that over the next few weeks for the foreseeable future. So even though I will be doing Trump Dump every Friday, don't worry, you'll be getting all the news you need about the Trumpster fire and his evil acolytes and their bullshit, or indeed let's hold open the opportunity, the possibility that they might become, good servants of the people. In which case, I'll bring you that news, but don't hold your breath on that one. Yeah, every Friday, but it'll be in this format because the putting the images together and cutting all the audio and all of that is quite a long process, and I'll be putting a lot more of that time spent on that into putting together a series of videos to do with the manifestos for the upcoming UK election, general election. So that's that. Okay, on with the fucking the actual Trump dump though, right? Week 13, you know the drill. We're going to be looking at Trump and the people around him and the bullshit they've been up to this week. So without further ado, firstly, congratulations to White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer. He made it a whole week without complimenting Adolf Hitler. So, well done there, Sean. Trump, one of his major claims during the election was that he was going to drain the swamp. But the swamp has very much enveloped his entire administration, as it was always going to, because he was the swamp. He always was. And another brilliant example of that was this week when it's now been decided that the White House visitors log will no longer be made public, which means that lobbyists will be able to come and go from the White House and discuss God knows what with God knows who, and the American people will never know about it. Basically meaning that the evil, corrupt bullshit that goes on in the White House, the American people will have no idea about it. So the swamp wins again. Well done, Trump dickheads. What else do we have here? Mike Pence went off for a trip to the Far East, to South Korea, Japan, and I think Indonesia, if I recall correctly. Whilst Trump obviously went for his billionth fucking golfing trip to Mar-a-Lago. Well, I mean, why does he not want to go anywhere? Why does he not want to do those foreign trips as a leader, as an emissary of the country? If he didn't want to be president, why the fuck did he run to become president? It's very strange. And yeah, whilst Pence was there, he basically squinted in a very menacing way toward the North Koreans. It was very funny. He basically did he looks so much like, when he does that kind of mean kind of look thing, he looks like Hank Hill's dad from King of the Hill. He really does. I mean, I could put up images of that, but that would take time. Fuck that. You've either seen the show and get the reference, or you haven't and you don't. So whatever. And later on in the week, there was more saber rattling toward North Korea. I mean, it really is the ultimate battle of the man babies, but this time with nuclear weaponry. So, yay. As Pence said that the sword was. Hang on, what's his exact phrase? I did mention it. I did write it down, so I should be able to find it. The sword stands ready, which could be an erection metaphor, but I don't think so. I think he was referring to America's ability and potential willingness to go to war over North Korea and their nuclear missile ambitions, which is one thing. I mean, that's sort of understandable to a degree. And he said that North Korea shouldn't test Trump on his resolve, which is fair enough, but they also probably shouldn't test him on his grammar or spelling or basic command of the language, because that would be really embarrassing for Trump. So, but what was more dangerous, and it really was genuinely fucking reckless, was that there was a naval carrier group going roughly in the area of the South Pacific, or the South China Sea, whatever, that Korea is in, but not actually heading toward Korea at all. It wasn't going towards the Korean Peninsula. But Trump suggested that they might turn north and go towards Korea, basically starting a war with North Korea. Even though there was no plan for that. There was never any intention or plan to go for that carrier group, that group of ships to go to Korea. So basically ratcheting up fears of potentially a third world war. And it would be that, because like I've said in the previous episode of this series, if you go to war with North Korea, you're going to war with China, a nuclear armed nation of over 1 billion people, a war you cannot hope to win. So, a war that humanity cannot hope to fucking win. So, I mean, the recklessness of this fucking arsehole. I mean, Trump really is a clear and present danger to the safety of humanity. So if you could hurry up with this impeachment thing, and more on that later. Right. What do we have? Yeah, Saturday saw the taxation rallies. Which was basically to try and support the idea that Trump should release his tax returns, which he absolutely should, and hasn't, because he's corrupt as fuck, and he knows that if he did release those tax returns, as he promised he would before the election, another one broken, then another promise broken, that we would all be able to see how corrupt he is. But there you go. And possibly that he's not as rich as he says he is, which I dare say is also true. Then Monday, the annual Easter egg roll, which is a really stupid event at the White House, but whatever. And most notable for the fact that there's a great clip, which you should definitely look up, of Melania Trump having to nudge her husband on the arm to get him to put his hand across his heart during the playing of the national anthem, which is like, that's politics 101. I mean, it's not even politics 101, it's politics fucking kindergarten lesson. If you're a politician, which Trump now is, or even just someone, you know, running for office or whatever, if the national anthem plays, just put your hand over your fucking heart. Why do you have to be reminded by a foreigner to do that? It's ridiculous. Anyway, another potential conflict of interest arose this week, even though they said, "Oh, we're going to completely divest our business interests from our politics, our political roles." Ivanka Trump, Donald Trump's daughter, and his object of lust, unfortunately, is, and also one of his top advisors, of course. China, the Chinese government, gave her clothing company very lucrative trademark approvals on the very same day that she and her father were having dinner with Xi, the president of China, at Mar-a-Lago. So even though the US taxpayer was paying Donald Trump to have dinner at Donald Trump's residence, Donald Trump's property, which should be the business conflict of interest first and foremost, and the worst conflict of interest at that one dinner. I mean, the swamp is in charge. It's not draining the swamp. He is the fucking swamp. He and his family of grifters are the swamp. In conspiracy nut job news, the Newtown Board of Directors wrote a letter to the Trump White House asking him to denounce the Sandy Hook conspiracy theory. Nutter went into school in Sandy Hook and killed a load of kids. And some conspiracy theorists, including the one they singled out in their letter, Alex Jones, claimed that this was staged and it was all actors and blah, blah, blah. Now, that letter went to the White House. The White House then refused markedly to actually denounce those conspiracy theorists. They released a very, very broadly worded statement saying that they, what was the exact phrase they used? They repudiated evil of all kinds, unquote. Unquote, evil of all kinds, unquote. So basically holding the door open for those kind of absolute fucking conspiracy theorist scum, right? Or as Trump calls them, his base. I mean, America, what have you become, really? This man's in charge. Fucking hell. Where else are we? Right, Wednesday. So the Super Bowl champion New England Patriots, and I want to mention this just because go Patriots, But also, there is a genuine point to this, right? Which, I mean, the fact that a champion of a major sport in America, the winners of that competition, go to the White House and celebrate with the president. It's a tradition as old as blah blah blah, and it's a thing that happens all the time. But 30 plus members of the Patriot squad did not go, for obviously political reasons, including star quarterback Tom Brady, who was previously friends with Trump. Now, before anyone jumps up and says, well, he was visiting his mother in hospital, purpose reason for that, why is it that then Tom Brady's wife tweeted out a really very, very anti-Trump message as that? Yeah, I think they've decided that they don't want anything to do with him. They don't want to be associated with him, because that would be bad for the brand. I think that's pretty obvious. And so, yeah, all of those people decided not to do so. And you can see the image of when the Patriots were in 2015, and they went to see Barack Obama, huge, big load of them. And then the image juxtaposed that with the Trump meeting, and there were far fewer of them, which is a pretty severe snub to Trump, to the Trump-a-lumper. Anyway, yes. Saw a group of the most disgusting sort of inbred shit gibbons that you've ever seen in your life, the likes of Sarah Palin, Ted Nugent, and Kid Rock go to the White House for a photo opportunity, which is so strange because considering who was in that room, there were more people than fucking brain cells in the Oval Office at that moment, weren't there? Really is just, as I said earlier, what have you become, America? For fuck's sake. Oh, yeah. And also, just a quick note, remember when the Fox News fucking circle jerkosphere went crazy about Obama inviting Common, the rapper, to the White House because he'd apparently written some controversial lyrics? I know a rapper writing controversial lyrics, who'd have thunk it? But yeah, they went fucking crazy about that. Well, they don't seem to have been remotely bothered by the fact that he invited Ted Nugent, a man who wrote a song called Jailbait, the lyrics to which you should look up, which explicitly advocate for pedophilia. He talks about wanting to fuck a 13-year-old. So that's pretty fucking bad. But yeah, they don't seem to care. I wonder why. It's because Barack Obama's a black man and Donald Trump's an orange man. I mean, a white man. Yeah. In terms of the I mentioned earlier, the Trump impeachment thing, the net is tightening around the group now, which is good. Although, please hurry up. With Jason Chaffetz, the head of the Senate Intelligence Committee, who had to recuse himself because he's obviously in Donald Trump's pocket. In fact, he's so far up Donald Trump's arse that not only has he now had to say, he's now announced that he won't be standing for re-election, he is also being under investigation by the FBI as part of their investigation into Donald Trump being a treasonous piece of shit. So it's good to see that there is some development in that area, but if you could hurry up, because it's perfectly plausible that by this time next week he will have declared war via Twitter on a dozen more countries or something. So if you could, hurry up with the whole investigation and impeachment process, that would be just super duper. Signed, humanity. Anyway, but if that inauguration doesn't take place, then there are 1,369 days until the next inauguration. And we can do this, people. We fucking can, okay? But the one thing we must always remember, apart from fuck you, Montana, is that this is not normal. Thank you all for listening and for watching. And I mean that genuinely. I hope the new format for the foreseeable future for the next at least 6 weeks, because the UK election isn't too much of a drag on this and that people can still get something out of this. And by the way, if anyone wants to take a week on and say, like, oh, I can do it this week, and do something actually visually worthwhile with it, then be my guest. I'd be delighted. But if not, I can do every week. That's not a problem. I'm not trying to shift it off to anyone. But if anyone wants to volunteer to do that, that would be awesome. But if not, I shall see thee next week and for the foreseeable future in this format. Not always necessarily with the P-Man, but yeah, I'm just fucking rambling there. Anyway, pip pip.